At first, I laughed like everyone else. It was just an awkward, drunken dance. The kind of thing that always happens at the end of a company Christmas party. Someone always gets too close. Someone always goes too far. But it never meant anything. Except this time it did. I was standing at the bar, finishing the last of my whiskey, watching them, laughing, her arms wrapped around his neck, his hands too low on her hips. Not clumsy or random, but familiar. Too familiar. Too smooth to be innocent. This wasn't two strangers fooling around. This was something else. The kind of quiet closeness that only comes with time. She touched him, then looked at me, gave me a small, guilty smile. The kind that says, "Don't make a scene." I didn't. I smiled back, clenched my teeth so hard my jaw hurt later. When she went to the bathroom, her phone buzzed on the table. A message from him. "I miss being next to you. Don't fall asleep. Don't kiss. Touch. Fall asleep a bit deeper." Old words. Too deep. A hidden life. One that had clearly been going on, quietly, right next to mine. I just hadn't seen it. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. She came back laughing, cheeks flushed, still dancing. She leaned into me. She smelled like wine, sweat, and him. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. He wasn't drunk. This wasn't some stupid party slip. It was a second life. One I'd never been part of. My name is Daniel Hay. I'm a financial analyst, 42 years old. I've been married to Elise for 15 years. Until last night, I thought I knew her. I didn't confront her. Too many people at the party. Too much alcohol. Instead, I memorized the name on her phone, Marcus Chun. He's the new creative director at our company. I'd met him twice at corporate events. We shook hands, chatted about weather, sports, politics, all while he was secretly sleeping with my wife. When we got home, Elise slipped off her high heels at the door, a habit that used to annoy me. Now it felt like a punch. Expensive, painful. I watched her routine with new eyes. Her earrings placed carefully on the nightstand. Her makeup removed in neat, practiced motions. The silk nightgown sliding off her shoulders. The same routine. But now it looked like a performance. She got into bed beside me, lying there like nothing was different. Only it was. Everything had changed. "You're quiet," she said, rubbing lotion into her hands. "Didn't you have fun?" I nodded, sat down on the edge of the bed. Then I asked, "When did it start?" She kept rubbing the lotion in, but her hands slowed down. "You and Marcus." The lotion bottle fell to the carpet. Her face shifted through tiny expressions. Shock, denial, calculation. Then finally, a strange kind of relief. "How long did you play this role?" My voice didn't even sound like mine. "I'm not asking how I found out," I said. "I'm asking when it started." She sat beside me, eyes fixed on the wall. "Seattle. 6 months ago. At the conference. 6 months. Half a year of my life, rewritten. Every late night at the office. Every business trip. Every odd excuse. All rearranging themselves in my mind like a kaleidoscope twisting into a new pattern. I wanted to ask why. The question burned in my throat. "I don't know," she whispered. Then stronger. "No, that's not true. I know exactly why." She turned to me. Her eyes were dry, calm. "Because he sees me. Not as your wife. Not as someone's mom or colleague. He just sees me." The simplicity of it cut deeper than any excuse could have. I remembered when I used to look at her the same way. When I really saw Elise. Just her, as she was. When did that change? When did she stop being in love with me? I didn't ask, but I think she knew. "I feel guilty. Alive. Everything," she said. I gave a strange nod. Didn't say a word. "I'll sleep in the guest room," I muttered. "Daniel, we should talk about this." "Not tonight." I packed a few things. Toothbrush, pajamas, and left our bedroom. The silence felt sterile. I didn't cry. Instead, I did something that felt more dangerous. I opened my laptop, typed Marcus Chun. His LinkedIn came up. He was 5 years younger than me, had an impressive career. His Instagram showed a life of gallery openings, mountain hikes, and perfectly plated meals. A creative life. An adventurous life. Everything my structured, predictable world wasn't. At 3 in the morning, I sat at the kitchen table, building a timeline. Business trips, late meetings, weekends when Elise said she was visiting her sister. But she was with him. I matched every one of her absences with gaps in Marcus's social media. The pattern was clear, precise, almost elegant in how it was hidden. They were careful. They were smart. Just not smart enough. The next morning, I called in sick. So did Elise. We circled each other in the kitchen like nervous animals. I didn't plan this, she said, pouring coffee into my favorite mug. The one from our honeymoon in Bali. It just happened. Nothing just happens for 6 months, I replied, taking the cup but not drinking from it. 6 months means thousands of decisions. Little ones, big ones, all leading to this. She shrugged. What do you want to know? Everything. I sat down at the kitchen island. I want to understand how this happened without me noticing, and how you ended up with him. She sat across from me, wrapping her hands around her own mug. We worked on a presentation together, she said. He asked me questions, real ones, not just small talk. We started having lunch, then drinks. Then I ended it. Then you started sleeping together. I finished. She nodded, her gaze steady. At first, I told myself it was just physical, that it didn't affect our marriage. But then it did, I said. The coffee between us had gone cold. Neither of us touched it. No, it wasn't just physical, she admitted. She reached across the island, her fingers brushing mine. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. Daniel, I still love you. That hasn't changed. Yes, it has, I said, and finally took a sip. The coffee was bitter, too strong. You can't live 2 lives without neglecting one of them. Maybe that's true, she said softly. Or maybe I've just been neglecting myself all these years. Playing it safe. Being what everyone needed me to be. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence. Outside, the neighbor's lawn sprinklers turned on. Regular, rhythmic, unaffected. So what now? I asked. Elise looked surprised I was even asking. I don't know. I thought you'd throw me out. Or maybe we can fix this. I stood up. Unsteady. Maybe. But first, I have to understand it. I need to see what I missed. I grabbed my car keys from the hook by the door. I'm going to him. Daniel, no. You won't stop me, I said quietly. You owe me that. Her face tensed. He's not home. He's in Chicago until Wednesday. Of course he was. Another business trip. The one Elise mentioned last week. It had landed right on our anniversary. Then I'll at least see his place, I said, even if he's not in it. Elise, his address. She gave it to me, her voice hollow. Marcus lived in a renovated downtown loft. Exposed brick walls, huge windows, polished concrete floors. Everything our 4-bedroom house in the suburbs lacked. Style, edge, personality. I used the spare key Elise had reluctantly admitted to having. She never should have had it. Walking through his apartment felt like walking through a ghost version of my own life. I found her everywhere. A pair of earrings I'd never seen before sitting on the nightstand. Her favorite tea in the cupboard. A framed photo of the two of them hiking, somewhere that looked like the Cascades. Her face turned toward the sun, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. In the bathroom, her toiletries were neatly lined up beside his. Her expensive shampoo, her facial toner for sensitive skin, the lavender lotion she used every night. This wasn't just an affair. This was a second home, a partnership, a life, built stone by stone, right next to ours. I sat down on his bed, her bed, and called her. I'm sitting in your other bedroom, I said when she answered. Looking at your other life. Her breathing changed. Faster. Daniel, please come home. We should talk about this. That's just it, I said, running my hand across the expensive bedding. I don't think we've been together for a long time. That's not true, she insisted. We built a life. We have a routine. When was the last time we really talked, Elise? Not about bills or calendars or who to call about the plumbing. I mean really talked. The silence that followed was heavy, long, damning. Come home, she said at last. Please. I hung up, didn't answer, and kept exploring. In his office, I found dozens of sketches. Elise laughing, Elise reading, Elise sleeping. Each one drawn with a level of detail that only comes from truly observing someone, from really seeing them. And then I found something else. A small velvet box, hidden in a desk drawer. Inside was a ring. Not flashy, but unique. A sapphire, surrounded by tiny diamonds. Elise's birthstone. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just an affair. It was an exit plan. When I got home, Elise was waiting, sitting in the living room like a guest in her own house, perched on the edge of the sofa. "He bought you a ring," I said. The color drained from her face. "What?" "No, I didn't know about any ring." I tossed my keys onto the coffee table. Was that the plan? Divorce me? Or just disappear one day with a new name, a new life? A clean break. "I didn't know about the ring," she said again, her voice shaking. "Daniel, I swear." Her shock looked real. I sat down across from her, suddenly feeling completely drained. "What do you want, Elise? What do you really want?" She looked away. Tears finally started to fall. "I don't know anymore," she whispered. "I thought I knew. I thought I wanted something else. Something more. But now everything's falling apart." Her shoulders shook, and for the first time since I discovered the affair, the wall between us seemed to thin, not because of the tears, but because of her confusion. It was the most honest thing she had said in months. "I want to meet him," I said suddenly. "If this is real, then the three of us need to face each other. Face to face." "That's a terrible idea," she said, wiping her eyes. "What's the point?" "I need to see it," I said quietly. "I need to see you with him. I need to understand what I missed. Why I didn't see it coming." Then her voice dropped to a whisper. "And then you'll decide whether it's worth fighting for our marriage." The next 3 days felt like limbo. We still slept in the same house, but in separate rooms. We spoke only about small things. Superficial, banal. We avoided the obvious. It felt like we were living with the ghost of our old marriage. The routines were still there, but the heart of it was gone. On Wednesday evening, Marcus came back from Chicago. I insisted on picking him up from the airport, alone. He spotted me first in the arrival hall. Confusion on his face. Then realization. Then resignation. He walked toward me slowly, a carry-on slung over his shoulder. "Daniel," he said, reaching out his hand. "Marcus." I shook it, felt the rough beard, the expensive glasses, the calm confidence. "We need to talk." He shifted his bag. "Elise, is she okay?" That question, his concern, somehow irritated me more than any defensive excuse. "She's waiting for us at Westlake," I said. It was a neutral bar downtown. I thought it would be the right place. He nodded and followed me to the parking garage. In the car, he broke the silence first. "I'm not going to apologize," he said, staring straight ahead. "Not because I don't think I did something wrong, but because an apology would be hollow. It wouldn't fix anything." "No, it wouldn't," I agreed, steering through evening traffic. "But I need to understand. Why her? Why my wife?" Marcus looked at me. "Because she's extraordinary, and because something inside her was dying." I scoffed. "A bit dramatic, don't you think?" "No," he said calmly. "When was the last time you asked about her photography? Her dreams? When she wanted to travel? The novel she started 3 years ago?" Every question landed like a punch to the chest. Photography. A novel. Who was this woman he was describing? It didn't sound like Elise. "Elise doesn't write," I said. But even I could hear the doubt creeping into my voice. Marcus said nothing, but his silence spoke volumes. Elise was already at the bar. She sat tucked in a corner, nursing a glass of wine. Her eyes darted between us as we approached, full of naked fear. "This feels so real," she murmured as we sat down. Marcus took the seat next to her. I sat across from both of them. "I found the ring," I said immediately. Marcus flinched, just a bit. "That's not how this was supposed to go." "How was it supposed to go?" I asked. "You sleep with my wife for 6 months. You buy her a ring. And then what? Propose while she's still married to me." "I hadn't proposed," he said more firmly. "I'm not that much of a bastard." "Just enough," I muttered. "Daniel, please," Elise said gently. "This isn't helping." "What would help?" I asked, honestly curious. What could possibly make this better? Marcus spoke quietly. "Honesty. Total honesty." So we talked. For 3 hours. We talked about when the affair started. Why it happened. What was missing, not just in our marriage, but in me. We talked about the slow, invisible way that comfort replaces connection. How safety smothers growth. And somewhere in those 3 hours, something unexpected happened. I began to see my wife differently. Not as my possession, not as an extension of me, but as her own person, a complete human being. with her own desires, frustrations, and dreams. Dreams I had stopped noticing. And with painful clarity, I saw how she lit up around Marcus, how her body leaned toward him without thinking, how her eyes looked for his when she spoke, and how he sensed what she needed. Before she even asked, I remembered how she liked her second drink, how she smiled when the conversation turned to things that mattered to her. It felt like watching a dance, one I had once known, but had long forgotten the steps to. I still love you, Daniel, she said, as the bar around us dimmed and began to close. I always will, but I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. Those words should have crushed me, but they didn't. Instead, they brought something into focus, something I had felt for months, maybe even years. I know, I said quietly. I think I've known for a long time. We just didn't have the courage to say it. Marcus stayed silent. There was nothing for him to gain from this part. So what happens now? Elise asked, repeating the same question I'd asked her just days before. I looked at both of them. Two people locked with me in a triangle none of us had ever planned. Now, I said with calm honesty, we figure out how to end one chapter and begin a new one. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Surprisingly civil, remarkably calm, given the circumstances. We divided our life together, like careful archaeologists, sorting memories, labeling artifacts. This one's yours. That one's mine. Elise moved in with Marcus. I kept the house, though I sold it a year later. Too many ghosts. But the strangest part wasn't losing her. It was realizing I had started losing her years ago, with every missed signal, every ignored dream, every quiet need left unanswered. I wasn't at their wedding, though they invited me. A gesture of kindness? Or cruelty? Even now, I'm not sure. Maybe both. Still, I sent a gift. A camera. The expensive one she'd always wanted. The one we'd said was too much for our budget. I wanted to write a note. Capture your new life. Let it be deeper, more adventurous, more true. She sent a thank you card. Inside was a photo, a self-portrait. She stood in front of a mirror, the camera blocking part of her face. But she was smiling. On the back, she wrote, "Thank you for finally seeing me." It was the most honest exchange we'd had in years. 2 years later, I met someone new, a literature professor. Sharp mind, thoughtful eyes. On our third date, she spoke passionately about obscure Russian poetry. And this time, I listened. I wanted to understand. I wanted to see her. Losing Elise had taught me something important. People aren't possessions. They're gardens. To be tended. Stories. To be read slowly, page by page. Sometimes I still think back to that Christmas party. The awkward dance that started it all. It wasn't just a dance. It was a moment when one life ended and another began. At first, I laughed like everyone else. But in the end, it wasn't funny. It was necessary. It was the beginning of all of us living more honestly, myself included, especially me.